Welcome to Rev Up, and this is Module 11, Winning the Listing. I'm Thomas, and I'm your instructor for this Rev Up session. So not only talk about winning the listing, but also negotiating the sale. So what we're going to look at is the listing appointment, some tips for winning sellers and securing the listing. We're going to talk about marketing and servicing the listing, which is really important. This is where you win your goodie points with your clients and negotiating the sale. So okay, I don't know if somebody's messing with me. All right, so we're talking about step 4 in the listing process. I think this is a continuation of last week or the last module. So we're going to conduct the listing presentation and present marketing and pricing strategies at this point. So we call this the moment of truth. So let me just pause here. When we're talking about listings, let me ask you a question. What comes to mind? What do you think about when you think of listings? All right, y'all got to give me some feedback or this is going to be a long session.
Can you be more specific in your question?
It's just what comes to mind as a real estate agent when you're thinking about listings. I want to know where you guys are at. Some of you are new. Some of you had a listing. What do listings mean to your business? Building a relationship. Thanks, Jessica. Great. What else?
I think about
leverage.
Okay, I heard leverage. Great. That was one of the things in my head. What else?
I think about the paperwork involved.
Okay. Forms. Definitely. You can think about what we need to write up and how. Okay. What else?
Leads.
Say that again.
Lead.
All right. Listings bring leads or buyers. Absolutely. All right. All good. So, the biggest thing that I learned as an agent just starting out was listings bring leverage to your business. And what I mean by that, it's great to work with buyers, and that's a good business, and you want to have that part of the business. However, listings are like the double whammy. Not only do you get the listing, but statistics say for every listing, you're going to have 2 buyers. So why work with just 1 buyer when you can have a listing and 2 buyers? Okay. So a way to really grow your business, propel your business is to focus on listings. And we're in a season where that's going to be really important to you and your business. All right. So now we can talk about how we're moving forward with this listing process. So the 3 things that I want you to focus on are a pre-listing questionnaire, okay? A set of questions pre-listing. Then we're going to talk about research and preparation. What is it that you need to do? What's your job? And then the pre-listing package. What is going to be in this package that we're talking about that you're going to give to your potential seller? All right. So first, it starts with that listing presentation. So this will make sense in the short hour or less that we have. I don't have time to go back and forth with the handouts, but once you get the handouts, it'll make sense. Let me check the chat. All right. Also, yeah, winning their trust to work well with all parties. Absolutely. In fact, that is a vital key. Communication is going to be the glue that holds all this together. Okay, the greeting and outline of your presentation is really important. Okay. We all often say that first impressions, mean everything. Curb appeal, when somebody drives up to a property, the first thing they see, it makes a difference, right? The same way with anything that you give your client, you want to make sure that it is excellent. It personifies you, your business. So the greeting and the outline, which is, when you give somebody something, they're going to glance at it first, right? You want them to know that, hey, when they take that first glance, that you're organized, you have your things together, it's easy to read and it makes sense. Now, this presentation we're talking about, it includes marketing and pricing strategies. We'll get into that. And then when we're talking about closing for the listing and completing the paperwork, what you want to keep in mind is when you get in front of somebody, when you get in front of a potential client, you want to make sure that you're ready to close the deal, close the sale. It may not be at that point or that conversation or that meeting, but you want to make sure that you're the one that's ready. The last thing you want is if you're in front of a client and they say, hey, I'm ready to go. What do I need to do? And then you're like, let me run and get the paperwork. Or it depends on how you do your business and how you talk to people. But if they see that you're not prepared, they may not want to move forward and work with you. Okay, so any questions to this point? Okay, so these are kind of highlight items. Let me go back over them. You're going to work on the greeting and outline of your presentation. And if you were in module 10, this will make more sense. Let me go ahead and say you need to go to the design area of your one login. Go to one login, go design marketing. You're going to download the current ROG listing presentation. All you have to do is put in your personal information. If you want to change the pictures, that's fine, but the corporate graphics team did a really good job of putting those in. I wouldn't change them. I would just change your name and personal information, and I would run with it. There might be some other things you want to add, but make sure that it's professional looking. And I think that ours is really, it really looks nice. And it's already formatted for any device that your client may want to look at the presentation on, whether it's an iPad, iPhone, or computer. All right, so again, want to make sure it looks good. We include marketing and pricing strategies. That's already in the presentation. You just need to read and understand it. And that's something that your mentor can go over you with or go over with you a little more in depth than what we're going to do here. And be prepared to close for the listing and complete the paperwork. All right, now comes the home tour and connecting with the client. So we've given you a couple of helpful aids or worksheets, downloadables, whatever you want to call them. One is called the top 10 favorite features of my home. This is really just another way of getting your client or potential client to give you information that you're going to need about that house. So the top 10 things that drew them to that particular property might be the same reasons or features that will draw another potential homeowner or buyer to that property. Does that make sense? Somebody just click or moan or let me know you're still there. All right.
So is this a worksheet that they would fill out or we would fill out as we're walking through the home with them?
Good question. No, I don't think there's anything that we give you that okay, except for if you wanted them to fill out the pre-listing questionnaire, However, I've never asked a client to do that. I'm always in front of them and I say, hey, I've got a worksheet that I use to help me in my business, and I'm gonna record the answers that you give me. So I get their permission, but I fill it out for them because again, I want to drive this business the way I want to do it. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I don't want to have to go back and say, oh, you missed a line, you know? So I just do it. So really, these worksheets are for you, whether you use them physically and tangibly, or you take this information and know this is information you need to collect when you're in front of your client. I would take the worksheet with you and your clipboard and actually fill it out. Good question. Also involve your sellers in the information gathering process. What you might want to do is prior to this meeting or listing consult, tell them, hey, any information you have about your property, could you have it ready so we could take a look at it together? And if they, you know, what do you mean? Well, you know, the closing documentation from when you closed on the home, deed information. And, you know, you can look all this up, but if they have it, here's what you're doing. Not that you can't look it up, but you're already getting them to learn how to respond to you. Okay. You're asking, you're requesting, they're responding. It's going to be easier for them to respond to you when you say, hey, are we ready to sign the listing agreement, when they've already responded to you before. All right. So just some little selling secrets. All right, then you're going to present your marketing strategy. So in your marketing strategy, there's some things that I want you to know and to be able to focus on. Well, let me check the chat. Okay, nothing. Okay. First of all, the biggest thing we love about, I mean, one of the things that really makes us different, Realty One Group, from most other companies, most real estate companies want the agent, want you to promote them. We don't want you to promote us. We want you to promote your business, sell yourself and your company first. Now, we do allow you to do your own branding under, you know, our umbrella, our brand. You know, and there are some legalities involved, some minor things, but as long as you run it by the book, you're allowed to market your brand. But let's back up. Before you think about your brand as being a cool name, a slogan, or a set of colors or a logo, here's what I want you to understand. Your brand is you. When you look in the mirror, that's your brand. Okay. So look your best when you go out there. I want you to sell yourself. Your name is your brand. Okay. Thomas Watson, that's me. That's who I am. That's people. Look, the people who already know, love, and trust me, they've already seen my brand. They've seen me. So be you and promote yourself. Okay. Now, when we talk about, obviously in the listing presentation, there are lots of references to Realty One Group, and it's good and it makes sense. The network will help them, the visibility, our great branding, all you know, all that stuff. But again, it's about you. Now, when we talk about leading with value, who can give me an example of what it means to lead with value? What comes to your head? Doesn't even have to be real estate.
What comes to my mind is being a person of your word, doing what you told them that you said you would do.
Oh my, if that's the only thing you ever did, that'll win you business. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. Back in 2015, 2016, I was like a top Zillow agent for some of the zip codes in Charlotte. And I can tell you the only way that I secured that business is, well, there's really three things I did. I answered really quickly, okay, within seconds. So I had a good response time. I listened to what the client was asking and I delivered whatever it was they were asking for. Okay. Most people that call on Zillow leads, they want information fast on this property. They want to know, oh, I see that it's active and it's available. Is it really? Is it still available? And so I would look it up while I'm on the phone with them a lot of the time, and I would email them the MLS data sheet along with my perception of, or maybe not perception, along with my summary of the property. Okay. I would give them more than they asked for. And those, a lot of times those leads, they want to, all right, I want to get out there. I want to see this property. Well, I figured out how I could free myself up and pretty much get out there with just a few minutes notice. Okay. Now, I don't recommend that for everybody. Now, I don't do that anymore. I don't do Zillow leads anymore, but I do give people a lead time. I say, if they ask me to look at a property and they ask me right now, I'm going to say, how's 3 or 4 o'clock for you? I'm not going to jump up right now, because 9 times out of 10, people will go with your schedule. Okay. So, but in everything I do, I led with value. That means they need to reap the benefit. Okay. And if they reap it first and fast, they're going to love you. Okay. Then there's this third thing: help the seller think like a buyer. Oh man. Okay. So you're talking about somebody who's thinking about listing their house, thinking about selling. Think about your house. Those of you who are homeowners, how long have you lived in it? Did you put pictures on the wall? Did you have memories? Look, my daughter just had her baby in her house. Do you think there's some memories attached to that house? Yes, emotion. Sellers are going to be thinking with emotion. And what you have to do is you have to talk to them in such a way and convince them that, hey, when we're talking about selling this house, we need to think like a buyer would think. So when you sell this house and that nice pink dining room looks really good to you, and your curtains and all that stuff, let's think about the average buyer right now. You think they want a pink dining room? Now, I don't say it like that, but these are the kind of things you're going to have to overcome or get your seller to at least think on your level. What are some other things or situations where you might think like a buyer? Or what might some other things be? What are buyers interested in? Buyers like to have a lot of information, right? So when you feel like, think about this. When you fill out, what's the disclosure that sellers fill out that state the condition of the property at the time of listing? What's it called?
Working with real estate agents.
Nope. The seller disclosure that states the condition of the property. It's called the property disclosure. Okay. So, for example, that disclosure, before they fill it out, how about have a conversation with them with the form in front of you and say, hey, this is really important that we fill out this correctly and in detail. A lot of people, when you ask them to fill out that seller's disclosure, they will skip lines or not fill in, or they won't go down and put comments where it asks for comments about the condition of the property. The more detailed you have that your property disclosure is, the more the buyer is going to like it and feel comfortable. Now, a seller, when you're selling your house, you're trying to protect. You don't want to divulge information. In fact, we've been taught, don't share more than you have to, right? When it comes to selling, though, you got to think like the buyer. The buyer wants the information because it will help them make a decision. And all you need is one buyer for a property, right? I know we've been in this market where we have 100 buyers or offers per listing. You only need one to sell the property. You don't need 100. You don't. So you want to think like that buyer. Okay. When you present the pricing strategies, you want to make sure that in that strategy that you present, that you discuss the months of inventory. Now, I think everybody that has ears and, you know, listens to the news, watches anything media, will know kind of what real estate market we're in. Okay. Who can tell me what market we're in? Yep. Everybody's talked about a shifting market, right? But do you think we're in a buyer's market?
Seller.
We're in a seller's market. Yep. Discuss our months of inventory. You can find this. In fact, Canopy will send out an email and say, hey, download these nice slicks or whatever we call them, PDFs. And it tells you one of the things that's in there is how many months of inventory we have. It's been so low that nobody's probably ever looked at it in a while, but you want to know how many months of inventory that we have in the market, because that will back you up when you tell them, hey, this is the type of market we're in, and because of that, this is the way we need to position this listing. And all this will make more sense later.
You said Canopy sends that information, but where do we find it?
Canopy from time to time will send an email out, but go into Canopy in your MLS or Matrix account and go to resources. I believe it's under resources. And I can't remember if it's newsletter or it might even be market demographics, but
Okay.
it's in that set of resources somewhere. So it's a PDF you can download. They've already, look, what I would do is I would take it and I would screenshot certain areas and put it in my listing presentation. Then you want to present the competition. What's the competition? Are we talking about Coldwell Banker, Allen Tate? What's the competition to a seller?
Other homes up for sale.
Absolutely. In fact, what just sold, because what just sold is setting the comps, right? For the most part. So we want them to know that we know their neighborhood, their area market. So what do we usually take to discuss the competition? It's a 3-letter acronym, or 3-letter CMA, right? Comparative market analysis, where we present the competition. All right. All right, we got to move a little faster. Okay, so the listing process, again, here's a visual. If you'll go ahead and screenshot this. On the left side, on the left column, for those of you who are just tuning in by phone, the left column has asking price in relation to market value. The right column says percentage of potential buyers who will look at the property. Okay, so if the asking price in relation to market value, okay, let's just say market value is 300,000. Do y'all understand when I say market value, what that means? That means what the market is saying the house is worth, right? So if market value is 300,000 and you list it for 305, you're listing it too high. Okay. All right. So market value, asking price in relation to market value is plus 15%. So if we list the house 15% over market value, guess what? How many potential buyers do you think will look at that property? Statistics say 10%. Now that sucks. I don't know about you, but I want more than 10% of buyers looking at my property. Okay, if the asking price is 10% over market value, Guess how many buyers are looking at the property now? It goes up. It's 30%. You see where we're going here? So you want to price a property strategically and correct to begin with, or you're shooting yourself in the foot. I'll just use that. Okay, when we value or list the property at market value, now we have 60% of buyers who are looking at that property. If we've listed it correctly, why do you think it's only 60%? Why shouldn't it be 100%? Think like an investor. Think like a frugal buyer. Where's that other 40%? What are they looking at? I don't think y'all had coffee this morning. The other 40% wants a deal. They don't want to buy at market value. They want to buy below market value. So if we list the house 10% under market value, now guess what? We have 70% of buyers looking. And if we go down to 15% under market value, we're up to 90%. Now this is statistically, okay? I know the crazy market that we've been in, it seems like 110% of the buyers have been over market value, right? But this is really how it works. Every potential buyer that's out there is not a market value buyer. People who are going to occupy single family homes are only a percentage of the buyers that are out there. There are a lot of buyers that are investors or flippers or people who like, yeah, I don't think it's a deal unless I can get 30% under market value. And they'll wait. And there's probably a season coming where they're going to be able to do that. So just understand that when you price a property, you're never going to target everybody in the market that's looking to buy. Okay. Here's another visual, and this is what we're going to, so here's the explanation of this visual. If you go ahead and screenshot it. This is in the listing presentation, but I want you to understand it. On the vertical, on the left side, vertical, you go from high to low. There's a circle that says the listing price is kind of right there in the middle. And on the right, the left to right graph is the weeks on the market. So for those of you who can see this visual, what's the aha here? What is this visual telling you?
It looks like it's showing the higher the listing price, the fewer weeks on the market, but it seems like it should be inverted, right?
So when you're looking at weeks on the market, those are views. So I'm trying to make sure I explain it right. So the higher lower is not in relation to the list price. The list price is going to be what it's going to be for whatever market we're looking at. But the low high is, okay, let's say the low high is the looks, and then the weeks on the market is what runs out to the right. So between weeks 2 and it looks like 5.5, that the viewings or interest is peaked out. And then it does something crazy, it starts coming down. From 0 to 2 weeks, it's peaking up. So what this tells you is the money is in the first 2 weeks of the listing, okay? The first 2 weeks of the listing are critical, and these are statistics. Weeks 2 to 4, iffy. It's leveling out. It's plateaued. Then after that first month, interest starts dropping. Now, on an emotional level, why do you think that's happening? Think of you as the buyer.
Maybe they're thinking that it's not a good deal the longer it's been on the market.
Absolutely. Something's wrong with it. Why is it not already in the contract? I can tell you, I'm looking at properties myself right now. And if I see a property that's been on the market, I'm like, what's wrong with it? Why is it on the market? I mean, I've been doing this 17 years. And I think I still think like the buyer that's a first time buyer in some respects. I'm skeptical. So and let me add to this, if a property sits for a month and you don't have the grass cut, now not only is something wrong with the property, but now they definitely know the property's been vacated. Nobody's given it TLC, so there must be something wrong with it. See where we're going? So, okay, I spent too much time on that, but I want you to understand if this is the one graphic that you show your clients, because in the first 2 weeks, that means if we price it too high, it doesn't matter. If you price it too low now, it's going to go, I don't think we have that problem, but if you price it too low, if you do a quick sell, a fire sale, whatever you want to call it, it's going to sell right away, usually in any market. But if we don't price it strategically, because people have access to values now, with the internet, if we don't price it at value, price it correctly, market value, then we're not going to get looked at. And when we do price it correctly, we have about 2 to 4 weeks to get the job done. I know it sounds crazy, but we're cycling back around to a balanced market, and you're going to see how this is really going to play out. It works. It's crazy. All right, step 5. You got to ask for the listing. So you've done your homework. You've done the pre-questionnaires. You showed up. You've done the listing presentation or consult, whatever you want to call it. Now it's time. They're sitting there nodding their head and they seem to like you, you like them. And then there's kind of this silence. And it's like, are you going to wait for the client to say, hey, I'm ready to sign? Because they're probably not going to say that. So you have to be willing to ask for the business. And what you want to do is just make sure you're patient with them. Ask questions. The reason you want to ask questions is to get them talking to you. You want to get feedback. You want to get good information, but also you want to encourage them to be a part of the process. Unlike this training here where I'm doing most of the talking, you want your client to do most of the talking. So you want to encourage questions, open-ended questions. Include the seller in the decision-making. The easy way, the way you do that is you ask permission. Instead of telling the seller you need to list at $399, you ask the seller, would you agree with me if I said that $399 was the best list price? And let me show you why, Mr. So-and-so. So you ask for their agreement, and that brings them into the decision-making process. Okay. So let's look again. At this point, we reviewed motivations, timing, concerns, criteria. And again, this is piggybacking off of module 10. We've discussed qualifications, market informations, buyers, your competition, and you've presented the market supply research, your CMA, price range availability, meaning you've discussed if we list at the top of market, it's going to sit for a long time. If we list at market value or close to, we're going to get looks, we're going to get showings, and possibly offers. And then you showed them comparable homes for sale. Now you want to secure the agreement on best price range and upper limits. So what I usually do, and I don't think I have this in the worksheets, but I created my own little worksheet, and basically all it says is I have three headings on this one piece of paper. The top one says top of market. The next one down says recommended list price. And then the bottom one says quick sell. So what I do is I talk to them, because I don't assume that everybody is in the same position. By the way, did you know there are some sellers who are in a position where they don't want to be tied up with this listing, the selling the house. They would rather get it quick sold and have money in the bank and move on. So you got to ask questions. You got to understand who you're working with. So if you're working with somebody that says, hey, can you sell this house for me in a week? Yeah, now we've been in a market where we could probably sell anything in a week, but and you ask them, what do you mean? Well, I don't want it to sit on the market. I don't want to wait 2 to 3 weeks for an offer. Oh, so you want to do a quick sell, or that means we're going to drop the price even lower to get more attention faster. So, and with their permission, you can do that. Okay, so you're going to talk about price ranges for lists. You're going to present a target market plan. Again, that is already in your listing presentation. But if your target market is different, so what is your plan? So how are you going to target that? Are you going to target first buy home buyers? What does that mean? How are you going to promote that property? Are you going to put it on social media? How are you going to put it in front of first-time home buyers? Okay. And then the last one is answer and handle questions and any objections. So an objection from a potential seller would be, man, you know what? All this sounds great. I think you would be a great listing agent, but I just don't think my spouse is ready to sell. See, now that's an objection you're going to have to overcome. Or, you know what? I think we're just too busy to sell our house right now. Come back in 2 months. That's an objection that with the right data put back in front of the seller, you can secure that listing now. Because if you remind them how interest rates are rising and the group of first-time home buyers is falling away because they can't, qualify at the higher interest rates and all these other things. So anyway, be ready to answer and handle objections. Now we're ready to close for the listing. Ask for that business. Understand that sellers are looking for a go-getter. They want somebody that's assertive, has a can-do, fearless attitude. So if you present yourself as an agent who doesn't know what they're talking about when you're with that client, do you think they're going to sign with you? So that's why we rehearse. That's why we didn't do one at the beginning of the session, but we usually do. What do we usually unmute and do together at the beginning of each rev up session? Somebody tell me. Jessica? I don't know if you can talk or not.
Oh.
What do we usually say together during each rev up session?
Positive affirmation.
Absolutely. Okay, when we do these positive affirmations, that means we don't just do it once a week, but you do them every day. You tell yourself, you can do this. You are going to do this because you can. I promise you, back in 2006, when I got my license, I didn't think I was qualified to do anything. I would look at the other agents who were selling all these big properties, and I'm like, man, I could never be like them. Well, no, I can't be like them, but I can be me, and I can do it. And I proved to myself I could do it. So I want you to understand now. I don't want you to go through all those phases of fear that I went through, but learn now, hey, every day you learn more about the business. Every day you're putting the foot forward, and that's going to build, it's going to build your resolve, your resiliency. Also, How do you demonstrate that you have those qualities? Well, you can't demonstrate to the client without being with them or being in their presence in some form or fashion, right? So you gotta get in front of people. You gotta start getting in front of people. That's the real estate business, and especially as we move towards more where your sphere is going to be where your business comes from, because leads don't always fall out of the trees. You got to go and you got to cultivate business from people who know, love, and trust you. That is what I highly recommend. All right, now we got to do the paperwork. Somebody mentioned before, all that darn paperwork. All right, but look at it like this. Look at that listing agreement. Any of the forms that we have to fill out, that's your ticket to a paycheck. Okay. Don't look at it, because look, once you start filling out these forms and you know what goes in the blanks, again, you're like, man, that's easy. You can do a listing agreement in 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Complete the listing paperwork. So you have to do the paperwork. As we say in real estate, if it's not on paper, it's what? It's not legit. It's not going to happen. All right. Then we get signatures, right? Don't take for granted agents forget to get signatures. And guess what? If you turn in a form to the other side and they sign it, but you haven't signed it, when it gets to the attorney's office and the attorney looks to the other party and says, hey, this is not a legitimate contract. Do you still want to move forward? Whoa. Just imagine if that were to happen to you. So that's why we that's why we have the checks and balances. That's why we have compliance. It's not to push back and say, hey, you forgot this, but it's to say, hey, let's get this right so we can all get a paycheck, right? And serve our clients well. Okay. You've completed the listing paperwork. How about, did you know that you can, okay, I know you guys don't really print much anymore in this age, but did you know that you can fill out probably 85% of the listing paperwork, print it out and take it with you? So when they say, yeah, let's do this, you pull it out and all they have to do is you jot down the list price and then they sign it. You can do that. That's what I do. All right. Other non-crucial paperwork can be handled electronically. So what we mean, let me go back here. When you're trying to get new business and you're sitting with somebody, don't you think it's better when they're already in agreement then to have them sign there than to wait 2 hours for you to get back home, fill this out and send it to them electronically? What if they change their mind? Have the paperwork ready, at least the documentation, I call it the listing agreements, the hiring agreement. Have it ready, get them to sign it. Other paperwork can be handled after the fact electronically. Absolutely. All right. Automatic price reductions. I'm not going to talk about this because we're not in that market and I don't want to confuse you. But what this means is when we're in a market, more of a buyer's market where things are sitting longer, as an agent, just so this listing doesn't sit listed too high for too long, this means you've had the conversation with your client that says, hey, after 21 days or whatever, how many days, if we haven't had any offers, I'm going to automatically, nothing's automatic because they still have to sign the form, price reduction, but you can get them to sign it in advance. But we're going to reduce, basically you're getting their permission to reduce the list price every so often if there are no offers. And that's the market I started out in. All right, showings and seller reporting. Everybody still with me? We're almost there. When it comes to setting up your listing and setting up showings, this is where you want to be very careful. You want to make sure that you abide by your seller's schedule. If your seller, if the house is vacant and it's a go and show, that's easy. But if this house is still being occupied, if they have kids, if there's somebody that works from home, that means you've got to get their permission and creating a schedule where people can come in and view the house, right? Or buyers. So that's where you want to make them part of your team, make them feel part of the process, because they have to be part of that process, because the last thing you want to do is set up a showing schedule that upsets your seller. Collect cards. Okay. What this means is every so often the seller can collect the business cards that are left on the counter and call you and give you an update. But really, we don't need that. We got the super box. I just tell them to put them in the kitchen drawer. Watch the flyer box. Okay, so if you put flyers in front of the house, you can get your seller to help you, let you know when it's empty so you can refill it. What you want to make sure is that you contact the showing agents for feedback. Even if they leave it electronically, call them or text them and say, hey, just want to thank you for showing our property. Is there anything additional, or is there anything that maybe you forgot that would help me as the selling agent? Do not defend the listing or the price. Okay, this is stay professional and neutral. It's not your house. So when a buyer's agent calls and says, you've listed this property too high, are you an idiot? You want to just say, well, thank you for that feedback, but this is the price that my seller has requested to list the house at, whatever, or you don't even have to say anything, but don't go to their level. Just don't defend the property. Don't say, oh, well, argue with them about the price. That's not professional. Make sure that in any conversation with the buyer's agent or other parties that you don't reveal information about your seller that you shouldn't reveal. Really, you shouldn't reveal anything. Okay, an offer is on the table. You want to contact the seller only when the offer actually arrives. There's one thing I would caution you. When you get an email or a text and an agent says, oh, we're going to send an offer tonight, we can't wait to get you this offer. Wait till you actually have it in hand before you let your seller know, because a lot of times they don't send the offer. And the last thing you want to do is get your seller upset and talk about that offer that didn't come in. And they're going to accuse you for it. It's going to be your fault. There are two methods, in-person, electronic. 99% of the time we're using electronic, right, to deliver offers. But however you deliver, you want to make sure that whenever you receive an offer, that you deliver that offer to your seller as they come in. So if you're waiting a whole weekend to deliver all the offers at the end of the weekend, you're wrong. You're supposed to deliver them as they arrive. Now, what you can do is just say, Mr. Seller, here's the short and sweet of this offer. We can review all offers together on Sunday night, but you need to let them know you have the offer. Be prepared to provide a seller a net sheet for each offer. So a seller net sheet, and you can find that. Can't remember if it's in our Revolution folder or not on SkySlope, but I know it's in zip forms. But a seller net sheet basically gives the seller a ballpark what they walk away with after the closing fees, commissions, etc. All right, when it comes to negotiating, learn scripts for presenting less than perfect offers. So if you got an offer that came in and was lowballed, there's a right way to tell your seller. Don't just go in and say, oh, that crazy buyer's agent just screwed us over with a lowball, 50,000 under, whatever. No, just read the scripts because it's going to evoke some emotion in the seller and you need to know how to handle it. Go for win-win solutions that benefit both parties. Okay. Understand we're working for the seller, but we want to go for a win-win. Help sellers understand price and terms, but not both. Okay. Again, in this market, they're not getting price and terms. And the market has shifted. So now sellers are coming down on prices and are giving terms. But usually until we're in a full buyer's market, they're not going to give up both price and terms. And when we close the sale, we're going to follow a checklist, right? We got a checklist for you. Sky slope, hire a transaction coordinator. And so the caveat to this is if you're closing 2 to 3 transactions a month, it's probably time to hire a transaction coordinator if you want to grow, because it frees you up to go out and get more business. But I wouldn't do it before then, okay? Because it's going to be money you can save to grow your business. And you need to learn how to do the paperwork. Communicate with your clients often during the close the sale phase. Don't think just because it's under contract, you're waiting on closing. No, you probably need to escalate the or increase the amount of times that you're talking to your client now. Daily communication is the norm. After the sale, you want to make sure you have a follow-up system in place to thank your seller and keep in touch. You want to ask them for feedback, ask them what you could have done better, and make sure you got to have thick skin, but this will help you grow your business. And you want to set up reminders to keep in touch with your seller, your clients. They are now your clients for life. After you sell them a house, don't just drop them, like a bad relationship. Keep in touch with them. You can help them. They're going to have questions about their property later. They're going to have questions for you. They might want to know what the comps are 6 months after. They want to know if they have equity in their home, whatever. Great opportunity to keep in touch and get future business from them. And we always close with the one habit. Who can unmute and tell us what the one habit is? Anybody? All right, I'll do it. So each day, if you make 3 new calls, 3 new leads or people you want to do business with, add those 3 people to your database, write those 3 people a handwritten note card, and pick 3 other people from your database you haven't talked to lately and send them a handwritten note card. Then that is a formula for success. Now, I would do this the first month or 2 and then double it, because you need to grow your business, right? All right.